when I got my survey results in July, I felt, I'll tell you, I've never been so shocked in my life as how pissed they were at me. That top comment, as I was building, these are actually copies and pastes of the free text that were in that survey. And I actually didn't read that top one initially the way that I do now. And knowing what I know with 2 academies under my belt, I went back to build this presentation and read that. And it hadn't occurred to me what a backhanded comment that was, that rarely is a team able to perform their mission with such truly convincing smiles. This is a direct quote. Since the CO arrived, there's an attempt to become over-effective. And it's funny because I didn't think I was trying to be over-effective. I actually thought I was being just the right amount of effective. The overall decline of happiness was a comment that was probably made eight separate times and really presented a theme to me about what everyone was feeling. And this last one, I haven't even addressed this with the staff to this day, but it's one that I probably read 20 times after this survey come out, that it's a shame to see that the staff will be subject to the leadership of an inexperienced junior officer trying to make a name for himself. Holy shit. This is my first command. This is my moment. In terms of career importance, this is the pinnacle for me in July. And this is what the staff thought of me and the changes that I was making. And so I had 2 choices. And this is a popular graphic that Charlie uses in some of his presentations, and it really resonated with me. Just the idea that I could either address this like I was planning, in hiding, maybe faking, pulling out stats that I felt like would make me look good as a leader, hiding some of that bad stuff. They didn't have to know that 8 people wrote the same thing. They didn't have to know how raw that comment was about my inexperience as a leader. I could go that route. I could LHF my way out of it. Or I could face it head on. And honestly, I don't know that I would have chosen the latter if I hadn't made it to the Feedback Academy in November. It really opened my eyes, seeing next jumpers open up, seeing people share their journeys, their failures. And working with my TP, we structured a brief that, no kidding, took that same free text that I just showed you, put it on a slide and briefed it back to the staff, highlighted trends, owned it. It was one of the most remarkable experiences of my life, seeing the look on their faces that I was listening. And in that failure, I would argue 10 times over that because I made that choice, I had an early defining success in my command tour. Seeing the success and the vulnerabilities that I had offered to my staff and reservists really was starting to feel good. And this is a ritual that really resonated with me. Christian specifically, when I was here, briefed his journey. And for those of you not familiar, I hope I'm not spoiling anything. You know, it culminated with him winning the Avengers Award, which is the highest honor, I think, for any next jumper. But one of the trends I had seen in any next jumper's journey was that it's very sawtooth. People were very comfortable with admitting when they had some peaks of success, but just were willing to dive into those swamps and those downward turns where things weren't going quite so well. And so I adapted my entire career in the Navy to that model and shared this. And this was one of the first times that I had put myself out there personally and professionally in a way that I think connected. I think my sailors wanted more of. They were beginning to understand that I was human. And it was a really fun journey to brief. Chief had actually texted me while I was briefing it, and I looked down at my phone and he said, the sailors are really loving the vulnerability. What a win for a leader to look down and see that your senior enlisted is buying in, that your chief is, I look over, he's jotting down notes. He's mapping out his own journey as I'm going through this. And for those of you who can't see, I tried to do it in a way that called out behaviors like lying, hiding, faking, concepts that we had introduced. But what it really told my staff was that in the first half of my career, I was an arrogant monkey and had a tough time not being number one all the time. And later in my career, that I had found myself diving on grenades for my staff, that I was faking oftentimes on my subordinates' behalf because I didn't want to lose. I didn't want to not be number one. What an incredible experience for them. And within 2 weeks, we had a volunteer. And to date, running this about every 2 weeks, we have not left a meeting where we didn't have somebody raise their hand voluntarily and say, I want to brief the next one. We're now at the point where everybody understands, for the most part, the mechanics of what we're doing. Problem is, not everybody's bought into the vision, the vulnerability, and that's fine. We are at a point, though, where we're done selling. We're going to bake in our culture. We're going to bake in our rituals, but we're going to focus the energy on those employees who want it and those who are maybe kind of on the fence. That's who I'm going after now. In terms of culture, I trust now that if I invest the time in those and we have others who are completely skeptical, not bought in, I believe that over time they will come around. I believe that, one, there's the power of peer pressure. Two, I believe in the success of those who buy into this and we start seeing more productivity and better skills out of them. I believe other sailors are going to crave that as well. Nobody shows up to work and says, I want to do a really crappy job today. I think everybody wants to do well.